Greetings, one and all. I am back from holiday. Yes, I have returned, and hopefully our regular schedule of videos shall continue now that I am back. However, whilst I was on holiday, I was alerted to the fact that a big moment in NHL history came to the spotlight once again, as it was its anniversary. On August 9th, 1988, just a few months after the Edmonton Oilers took home yet another Stanley Cup to add to their rising collection over the 80s, the unthinkable happened. The best player of his generation, and eventually the best player in the history of the league, and the one deemed untouchable and not for sale and never to leave the Oilers franchise, the amazing, great one, Wayne Gretzky, was traded by the Edmonton Oilers. Canada's golden gem was moving out of the country to the American West Coast Los Angeles Kings franchise, which was still a tiny hockey market at the time. Now this begs the question, if Gretzky was deemed untradeable by the Oilers franchise, why was he traded? Well, let's take a look into why right now, as I've been doing a little bit of research, so let's get into it. The trade itself involved Wayne Gretzky, centre Mike Krushelensky and defenseman Marty McSorley moving to the LA Kings franchise in exchange for Jimmy Carson, Martin Gelinas, a first-round pick in the 89, 91 and 93 NHL drafts, and $15 million going to the Oilers just to sweeten the pot that little bit more. If the assets were changed to remove Gretzky and what the Kings gave up to get him specifically, no one would have batted as much of an eyelid as they did to this deal. But of course, Gretzky was part of this deal, the great one, and the backlash the Oilers received for trading their best player ever and the best player in the league was not pretty to say the least. Edmonton fans burned effigies, looking like the team owner Peter Pocklington, and the Oilers' 21 different phone lines were all filled and overflowing with people threatening to cancel their season tickets and never buy a ticket or follow the team again because they traded their beloved player and captain of their franchise. Gretzky's wife, Janet Jones, was also partially blamed for the trade, as she was an actress who predominantly worked out of the Los Angeles area, near Hollywood, which makes sense because there's so much work out there in Hollywood. Things got so bad that even a member of Canada's parliament proposed that the federal government block the trade, or that Canada buys Wayne Gretzky's contract and sell it to another Canadian team. But of course this never happened. But could you imagine if it had though? How crazy would that have been? The Canadian government stopping an NHL trade for the first and probably only time in NHL history. That's how much Wayne Gretzky meant to the Edmonton fan base and to Canada as a whole. One of the members of the parliament wanted the government to buy his contract to keep him in Canada. That's just fantastic. These are the sort of stories that you would never get nowadays, and this is why I love the 80s. It's such a brilliant time. Now, whilst there was all this backlash, the true cause of the trade was either unknown to the fan base or forgotten in all the craziness. The reason for Wayne Gretzky being traded was actually Wayne Gretzky himself. Wayne Gretzky had asked to be traded because his wife was expecting their first child and he wanted to raise the child with her and not be in a different country playing hockey. Remember, this was a time before the internet, so long-distance relationships and trying to keep up with how your kids are going was one of the toughest things you could do. He would have to fly constantly between LA and Edmonton just to be able to see his kid, which I think is ridiculous. So in a way you could argue that Gretzky's wife was a contributing factor to the trade, but Gretzky was putting his newfound family and his desire to be a father over playing hockey in Edmonton. Now, no matter how hard you argue the other way that this was the wrong decision, I think that choice deserves a lot of respect and shows a great amount of maturity on Wayne Gretzky's part, who was only 27 or 28 at the time, and he showed that family comes before hockey, as it always should be. I mean, hockey is brilliant, it's the best sport in the world, but you've got to put your family first, especially when you're expecting your first kid. Children are quite difficult to bring up. They're a bit of a handful, especially for two people. How about one person? That's ridiculous. Now, people understand these sort of decisions to move to a different team when a player is taken ill, or if they decide to take time off with something serious like cancer, or something like Mario Lemieux's situation, for example. The fan base was completely behind him for doing something like that because he was ill. So, another question is, why doesn't it work on the other end of the spectrum, when you're trying to bring a life into this world, and you want to be there for the ones that you love, and help raise your first child? For all the points that Gretzky scored and all the records that he's broken over the years, you have to remember that he's still a human being and he deserves to see his kid just as much as anybody else deserves to see their kids. It is also important to point out that the Oilers told Gretzky many times that he had the chance to pull the plug on the trade if he really didn't want to go through with it. But Gretzky was adamant to be traded. He wanted to try some new things and make a good move for hockey and the US. Now, after the trade, the Oilers post-trade took a while to bounce back from losing their best player ever from the team and the league. After winning the Cup the year before in 1988 before the trade, they lost in the first round of the 1989 playoffs to none other than Gretzky and the LA Kings in 7 games. That's a bit of karma for you there, isn't it, Edmonton? And it wasn't until the 1990 playoffs that the Edmonton Oilers won their first Cup post-Wayne Gretzky. But the Edmonton dynasty saw its eventual demise once Messier, Jari Kurri and Grant Furr moved on to different teams. Gretzky, on the other hand, never won the Stanley Cup or played for a Canadian team ever again after moving from Edmonton. But he did go on to break all sorts of records, get traded again to the St. Louis Blues franchise before hanging up his skates as the best player ever to play in the NHL in 1999 after spending 3 seasons reunited with one of his favourite teammates, Mark Messier, in the New York Rangers organisation after he signed as a free agent post-Blues trade. The Gretzky trade of August 9th, 1988 had a huge impact on the hockey world and the NHL as a whole. But you cannot deny that it worked out well for the growth of hockey in America, which grew greatly thanks to the presence of the great one, number 99. And now you know. That was why Wayne Gretzky was traded to the LA Kings. What do you think about the trade? Was it good, bad, or were you even not alive when the trade took place? Well, I know I certainly wasn't. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Also, let me know what you think about this sort of video about me asking questions about some of the bigger points in the NHL. I've got a couple of videos that I could do about certain playoff traditions and why they are a thing. So if you want to see those, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.